here. I'm just getting set up as you're going to come in with me here. I'm going to add a question, as I like to do in all of my, I was going to say podcast, Facebook Live, podcast, wherever you're listening to me from. These videos from Facebook Live do eventually end up on my YouTube station as well. So, maybe you'll come back and find this video. Today we're talking about teamwork. Teamwork's a little different than groups. We're going to talk about the difference there. And again, a sign of a toxic workplace is when there is no teamwork. So have you ever worked on a team that failed? Let's just do it that way. Publish that now. All right, so, publish that. There we go. All right, so teamwork is dream work, right? I can tell probably most of you watching this video have been on teams before where it definitely did not meet the definition of dream work. Teams are challenging sometimes, and there's a good reason for that. But is it a team or is it a group? We're going to talk about that difference here too. So if you're popping in, put in the comments, let me know where you're watching from, say hello. And if you have any questions as I go through this topic for today, let me know and I'll answer them before I sign off. So first of all, what is teamwork versus group work? And that's an important distinction because groups, by definition, are a gathering of 3 or more people who come together. They support each other and they work together to accomplish something. Now, I know you're thinking, well, that sounds like a team, but there is a big difference. So my example for a group is, I think of flooding, and I think of how people just come together and they all just take a position in a sandbag line. So that means somebody's filling the sandbags, somebody's tying the sandbags, tossing and stacking. Different roles, but there is no required knowledge set, threshold test. There is no training involved other than a few words of grab that shovel, fill the sandbag 3/4 full, wrap it tight, tie a bow, and toss it out the door kind of thing. So a group comes together for an object, for a purpose, for a goal, and then they disband, and there's no specialized training. And that's the key thing for a team. A team is made up of people who do have a specialized skill set, knowledge set, maybe it's a communication set, and they are brought together because of what they know and what they can do in order to help the group move forward. So the team move forward. Now in healthcare, I think of our teams consist of physicians and nurses and healthcare aides and unit clerks and managers and physio and occupational therapy, dietitians, pharmacists, and on and on and on. Each one of those people on the team bring a very specialized knowledge set and skill set to help move that patient through their health journey at a more efficient pace and at a more successful pace. So there is a specific role for each person to be played. Now there can be some troubles on teams, but when we have successful teams, what we know is that they have some characteristics among that team. And one of them is that they each have clear direction as to what their role is, what the scope of their task and nature is for this particular project, how they know they're going to be done, what their timelines are, and what do they need to be successful. There's also a sense of safety on that team in that there can be open communication. So if there's a question, they can ask it. If they have a concern, they can share it. If they see a barrier or a blind spot, they can illuminate it. Very different than a group. Now in a group, you might have people trying to share those pieces of information. Like if we go back to the sandbag, maybe someone's not tying the bags tight enough and the sand is falling out halfway down the line. Someone might be giving direction, but they may not be doing it in a method that a team would expect. And they might, who knows? So there's clear direction, open communication, defined roles, and there's a mutual accountability on a team that doesn't always exist or need to exist on a group. But in a workplace, when you are finding that teamwork is lacking, it's absent, it's not conducive, it's not creating the outcomes you want, maybe the members on the team are actually hauling us backwards and keeping us from progressing, that can be a sign of a toxic workplace. And you want to consider that to determine if you're going to stay or if you're going to speak up and try to influence the culture. So I have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things you can look at. And this again is going to be in a download for you in the Conquer conflict group. So there's the page where a lot of you just kind of watch in and take some information. That's absolutely fine. But if you're looking for more information, join the group. There is definitely more in there for you. And I'll just talk about 3 key ones right now. The first is, if your team is failing, one of the first things to look at, well, there's 2 key areas. The first one is the leadership style. Now, we tend to designate leaders by role. So the manager, the supervisor, is the default leader of a team, but they may not always be the best person to lead. So you may want to consider looking at either selecting the manager is a designated leader, but you may want to look at maybe considering a leader who is based on likability, influenceability, that's not even a word, but their ability to influence and motivate others. It doesn't always have to be the person with the title. And if you've worked in a lot of teams, you'll find that it usually is somebody with a title of seniority that is often the leader, and it doesn't always go well. So take a look at who your leader is and what kind of style they're using, if they're democratic or autocratic. We also want to look at the relationships within the team. Now, there's a lot of different people who show up, and if you've ever played games with a family, even with 2, 3, 4 people, you'll see that each person takes a different role. There's the rule breaker and the rule maker, those kind of things. But on a team, you'll want to be looking to see, in particular, if there's any volatile relationships. Maybe there's a history of people who've worked together in the past and they don't like each other, they don't value each other, they don't respect each other. And now they're on this team. They've been called in because of their expertise, but they've not resolved their past issues. That is potentially going to set this team up to fail. So if you have a team that's not working, we're checking the leadership, and then we're checking the relationships within the team to see if there's any problems that we might have to mitigate. It is quite possible you may have to get rid of a few people on your team and bring in some new members in order to continue forward. One other thing is to look at the incentive. There are a lot of teams that come together from a volunteer basis. They don't get paid any extra money. They're using their own hours. And if they're not appreciated, they'll quickly check out and give less to that team and more to the people who are valuing them. So what is the incentive for them to stay? For some of them, it's simply a matter of fact that they're contributing to the greater good. But they need to feel like that is being appreciated and valued and recognized. So incentive doesn't always mean money and promotions. That can be a part of it, but incentive is simply valuing what they bring to the group. And you can get creative with this. Maybe you can give them an afternoon off, or they could be boss for a day, or maybe you can give them an award. Like there's a lot of awards in the workplaces, and you can nominate them for an award, or just highlight their achievements at the next staff meeting. So what is the incentive for them? Understand your people. And when you understand your people, you'll know how to motivate them, and a good leader pays attention to that. And that's going to help reduce those volatile relationships. So in terms of teamwork being dream work, it certainly can be. We see a lot of teamwork in sports, right? Football, hockey, soccer, they all have very specific positions, unique responsibilities in order to make that team successful. And that's no different than the workplace. So if you are in a place where you feel like the team is fractured, you may want to look at the leadership and the people to see if there's any resolution that can put this team back on track. Okay, I don't see any questions. Thanks for popping in and sharing with me. As always, if you're watching the replay, you can still put your comments and questions in there. I will respond to them. And this was Toxic Workplace number 13. Isn't that crazy? I only have 2 more to do, and then we're going to move on to something new. And I was just checking what's the date today. It's the 23rd. It is not the 13th. I'm glad that didn't line up. As always, guys, I hope you have a great day, and don't forget you can make it a great day.